Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my podcast. This is Anne, and today is Sunday, March 3rd, 2018. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back to spend some time with me. And if you are a new viewer, welcome. I hope that you will have reason to come back and visit often. This is a podcast that combines my knitting and spinning, although I don't actually have any of that today again, books and cross stitch, so a whole bunch of crafty things. I hope everybody's doing really well. We're having a kind of spring feeling day here. It's, for us, a little bit humid, not like it is for most of the rest of the United States because it's still pretty dry here, but we had a little bit of rain yesterday and it's kind of blustery and the winds picked up and there's lots of clouds off across the mountains to the east in that direction. Let's kind of get right into it. Quick life update. I am back from Stitches West, as you might guess, because here I am recording. It was a great show. We had a fun time as always. Thank you to the Stitches Events folks for organizing and getting everything together because it's a massive job and we certainly know that. I am off to teach at the Yarn Guys Retreat, which is in Ames, Iowa, this upcoming weekend. So a week from today I'll be there. It's supposed to be really, 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 really cold, like high of 2 for most of the days I'm there. So excellent that I've got woolly things to take with me because I have a feeling I'm going to be wearing everything that I'm taking along on the airplane. So that's all good. Let's see, is there anything else really? The bathroom saga continues. It is finished to the point that, it was last time we talked, which was 2 weeks ago. They still do not have my shower doors in, so those have not been installed. They're on order in theory. But I can't really use the bathroom because, you can use the bathroom, but you can't take a shower in it because there's no shower doors. Getting to the annoyed point. They also don't have the actual sink hooked up. Everything's hooked up except the drain line. And until they hook that up, they've turned the water off, which, yes, I could turn on, but I'm not going to use the sink, obviously. It's not going to be able to drain the water. So anyway, I have a gorgeous bathroom that I can't use, which is a bit irksome, and the house is still, looks like a bomb has gone off in it. So no spinning again this week because I still cannot get in that room. It has all of the spare furniture. So let's talk about the fun stuff. Let's move on to good things, and let's move on to the world of knitting. So as I said, I just got back from Stitches West, taught several classes there, worked in the Yarn Guys booth, worked the fashion show, student banquet, all that kind of good social time. So I have spent the past week introverting before I have to go out and do more extroverting. So I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I got. If you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen this, but I stopped by the Sincere Sheep booth to see Brooke. And picked up a skein of her Cormo Sport. You might remember the last video I finished knitting the colorway called Mavericks in this base. That was part of her yarn club. This is not part of her yarn club, but is a base that she carries. The colorway name, and I'm not sure I'm going to get this right, so I apologize right from the front, is Kung Flay Fat Choi, which I think means New Year, if I remember correctly what she told me. But anyway, it's this amazing, gorgeous red, and I'm going to do some swatching with it, and I think possibly work up a sweater pattern to go with it. That's kind of where I'm leaning because it's an amazing, amazing yarn. So like I said, Brooke does have this for sale, this base for sale in her shop. I think she has a limited number of skeins of that inky black blue that I knit the Appia cowl from that I showed in my last video. If you're interested, you can go back and take a look at that. But skein of that. So 400 yards of sport weight, 4 ounces. Gorgeous. And then I also stopped by. Romy Hill and I have known each other for several years. We were going to try to have dinner. It just didn't work out. Lots of crazy bits and bobs that just, the planets didn't come into alignment. But she had posted on her Instagram that she had some new shawl pins available that were made of New Mexico silver. And I love her designs in knitting. I love her shawl pins. So I toddled on over to her booth. I can get this out of the plastic. Sorry for the crinkling. And picked up this beauty. There you go. So it's like a hammered metal circular pin, and then this is this clasp you can use to comes undone. I don't know if this is helping you guys see this or not, but anyway, it slides through and then you can secure your shawl or your other knitted garment through there to close it. Heavy dog size from the floor because we've had a rough morning. She has no any moments in her life. Anyway, so I picked this up from Romy, and yeah, definitely my kind of thing. I love how it looks. I love the fact that it's local silver, and of course I love the fact that it's hers. Her new logo, designs by Romy. So if you don't know who Romy Hill is, go check her out on Ravelry. She is a very prolific shawl designer, and she does amazing things. She does jewelry. She originally started out as a jeweler making these shawl pins, and then she's expanded to become a knitwear designer, and I'm sure y'all know who she is. You've run into her name or at least seen her patterns before. So okay, so then the other things that I've worked on, I showed you that I had finished sock number 1 of my striped Sherlock Holmes socks, and I am just about ready to put the heel in on sock number 2. So there's where that is. I have to do this little couple of rounds of gray and then put the heel in, and then I can start cruising on down the toe. So this is a great travel project because it doesn't really require a lot of thought. It's just a plain vanilla sock. The colorway is Sherlock Holmes from Night Owl Fibers. And it's her basic sock. That's the 75 merino, 25% nylon. So my plan is to get these finished this month because that will finish up. The first quarter is ending at the end of March for the Woolly Wonka Fibers literary themed knit along. If you want to join us, it's very casual. Anything that is a colorway name that's related to a book, or a design name that's related to a book, or some way that you can fit it together that it's related to a book, fair game. The next piece I'm working on is, let's see if I have a better photo of it. I'm not sure that I do. I don't. Okay, so excuse this because this has been on travel and shoved in and out of my bag. This is the Cascadus tee. Design is by Susanna IC, and I'm using it for one of my Make 9 challenge projects. So it's just a very simple, unfitted kind of boxy tee with a yoke neckline, and I am knitting it from Elizabeth Leveld's Silky Wool in this grayish blue, kind of slatey blue that I've had in stash for a gazillion years. So I have finished the top, the yoke, and I've put the sleeves, which will go here, on scrap yarn. And so I've worked the lace pattern and the increased rows. And so now I'm working on the very mind-numbing, boring stackinette in the round. But, you know, hey, it goes fast. So I will just work on that until it's the length I want. The bottom gets this same simple 1x1 ribbing, and then I will pick up to knit the short sleeves off of the stitches sitting on scrap yarn. And they're really simple and not very big. I think you can see in the picture here. They're just, so I'm knit down to, include that, yes. So I've knit down to there where the yarn over row is. So I just have this little section to do when I'm finished. So it won't, the sleeves will not take very long once I get there. So it's just powering through the body, and I had been trying to do that, like knit a few rounds in my hotel room in the evenings when I was on travel. I'll probably do the same thing this go round. It's also a really good airplane and waiting room kind of knit at this point. There's not a lot of flights into Des Moines, and so I think I have 6.5 hours of actual like travel time, just counting when the plane takes off, the flight, the sitting in, I route through Las Vegas, each going out and coming back. So I have like 6.5 hours, which will wind up being about 8 by the time I, get to the airport and you sit and you wait for your flight. So lots of good knitting time, and my plan is to make progress on both of those. I'll take both of those with me and see how I go. Okie doke. As I mentioned before, there's no spinning today. So let's move right along to books. And y'all, this might be less than an hour long extravaganza, which would be awesome. Okay, books. The first book that I finished up this last go round. Sorry, I was talking to myself inside my head but out loud. Anyway, The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. I had started this book on audiobook, finished it on audiobook. Michelle Bendy-Stitchy had left me a little note saying she was really sad that I wasn't enjoying this book as much as she had, because it was one of her, I think, top, she gave it 5 stars. It was one of her top reads from 2017. And I still like The Nightingale better. I'll just say that. But this book redeemed itself in the end, and I really think that the main issue I had with it was the narrator. If you watched my video last time, you'll know that I had some issues with some of her accents that she used to do the different characters. And I think the biggest thing was that I felt like the younger heroine, Charlie, and I understand that in this story you're supposed to have an arc from her being sort of a young, naive girl to being more worldly, and that she grows up over the course of the book. I get that. I think that the narrator made her sound more whiny than I would care to spend an entire book with. To me, she sounded like she was going to break into tears basically every time she talked, which was annoying. So I probably would have liked this book better if I had just read it. But I wanted an audiobook that I could listen to while I stitched. So audiobook. And it was one of the Magical Stitches. It was the February extra credit to read a book with a vehicle on the cover, and this does have a car on the cover. So it is a book that is set with a story that is set just after the Second World War, but is also told with another sort of subplot that ties into the main plot set during World War I. In some of it in England, the bulk of the story actually takes place in France, both in the World War I and the World War II storylines. I liked the character of Eve a lot, which I think you're supposed to. Charlie, like I said, I think I would have liked her better if I hadn't found the narrator so annoying. But it wound up being a really good story at the end of it, had some twists and turns. The last, let's say, 4 chapters that I kind of didn't see. I didn't see all of it coming, so that's always nice. I like to be surprised in that way. So yeah, I would recommend this book. If you like that sort of historical fiction, yeah, a good choice. I still think The Nightingale was better. Sorry, Michelle, I did. But a good enough read that I would recommend it to folks who like historical fiction. The next book that I read this last time was actually a book called The Lies of Loch Lamora. The author's name is Scott Lynch. This is a fantasy / adventure kind of book focused on the main character named Loch Lamora. There is some magic in it. The world is built wonderfully around these characters. The character, he is the main character, Loch Lamora. And the book does some storyline in the present tense and some flashbacks, so you get to learn the history of how Loch Lamora grew up and how he became a thief, and things about his upbringing that explain who he is in the present day. This is the first in a series. I'm not sure how many books are in it total. 3, I think, maybe 4. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the characters in it. I liked the bits and bobs of magic. It was a little slow for me in the third quarter of the book, so it took me a little while to kind of get over that hump. But then once I did, and kind of the adventure picked up, it was a fun read. I would not necessarily say it was like a young adult read. Maybe it is. Not a ton of violence, really not any sex, some profanity. There's a lot going on in it. He's a very layered character, so older young adult, yeah, fine. 13-year-olds, probably not. So a good adventure romp. I think it would be fun if they made this one into a movie. Just saying. I think it would be fun. Actually, I think Tom Hiddleston would be wonderful as the main character, who is charming but has a slightly flexible moral code. We'll just say that. Anyway, so read that. That was also a book that I used for extra credit in the School of Magical Stitches and Literature. So I just finished, like last night, a new book. I forgot to write down the name of the authors, so that and one of my current reading books I also don't have the author of. I just didn't put it in my notes, but I will stick it in the information box below like I do with all of the books. So this book is called Written in Red, and the main story, it's sort of a retelling of Red Riding Hood, and the story of Red Riding Hood and the Wolf, but it's set in a future place, I guess, but it's also a fantasy place where the humans are kind of the lesser population, and the animals who can change, shape-shifting, are the ones who kind of control things, like they control the water supply and they control where the humans are allowed to live. So our main character is hired as the human liaison between a compound that has a bunch of shapeshifters. They're hawks, crows, jackal, I think they're calling him, the coyote, wolves, a bear, some other creatures we're not sure where they fit in that continuum. But she's also on the run. And the wolves decide that they're going to protect her as one of their own. She's also a prophetess. She's a seer. She can see into the future at certain points in time. So lots of stuff going on in this book, but once I started it, I could not put it down. Like, I read it in 3 days, and the only reason I didn't finish it like in one sitting is because I started it the 28th of February, and we needed to not have the book half read in order to count it for a School of Magical Stitches book for March extra credit. I was originally going to use this as, I think the prompt is something like a book that has like a magical creature in it, basically. But when I opened it on my Kindle, I realized that it had maps in it, and I can find a lot of books with magical creatures in it and not so many books with maps easily. So I went ahead and I'm going to slot it in for that. It also would have worked for a book with an animal on the cover. That's our extra credit reading for March and April. But again, I had already started it in February, so it wouldn't count for March. But I did read it. It is also part of a series. I think there's 5 books in that series. I loved it. We'll probably pick up one of the other ones later. Yeah, if you like that kind of, it reminds me a lot of the Kate Daniels books, if you've read any of hers, which are like Magic Bites. I think you would enjoy it. I think it could be a young adult book. It doesn't have a lot of anything in it, but it's a very well written, fun book in that genre if you like that sort of fantasy, shape-shifting, slightly dystopic world. This is totally up your alley. So that one is complete. I have read that. So I started on March 1st. I started the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban as School of Magical Stitches and Literature to read for this month, which is working out great because I have so many. I mean, it's a 2-hour drive each way for me to get to the airport and to get home. So I already have like 4 hours of it banged off kind of thing just off for my walks around the neighborhood, and I'll be able to listen to another 4 hours of the 12 hours just driving to and from the airport. So it's only 12 hours of reading, so I don't think I'll have any problems finishing it up even just in March, but that is currently my audiobook. And then last night I just started, so I don't have a ton to report on it, but it's the book I'm reading for the extra credit, a book with an animal on the cover. And this is a book that was recommended to me by my friend Victoria called The Wonderling. And it's about this little creature who is sort of half fox, half human. He looks like a fox, but he walks upright on 2 legs. And he basically lives in this orphanage for misfit animals and half-bloods, if you will. It doesn't use that term, but that is kind of what it's talking about. And in an interesting parallel, because like I said, I just started reading this. So I just finished Written in Red, put that book down, finished the dinner dishes, went to go, open the new one to see how it was. And our heroine in Written in Red starts out with just a number. And our character in The Wonderling starts out, he's number 13. He doesn't have a name, he just has a number at this orphanage. Is that not really sad? It is. And they actually have his number on a tag that's written in red. And I was like, ooh, that's some interesting kind of semi-creepy parallels that I was unaware of. Anyway, so I've just started this book. I don't have a ton to report on it. It reminds me a little bit so far of Miss Peregrine's Home for, I can't remember that whole title, Home for Something Children, Peculiar Children maybe. It's a little bit like that, but it's also, at least so far, there's a little lemony snicket happening in there. Yeah, we'll see as we go along. He's a lovely, sweet little character, and I've already fallen hopelessly in love with him and would like him forever. So that is what I am currently reading. The rest, kind of to be determined. The Wonderling was something that was on my book of, as was Lies of Locke Lamora, was on my Goodreads challenge. And I was talking to Kim, who's Spartan Stitcher, and one of my co-moderator admins over on the Full Coverage Fanatics group. And I told her I thought maybe I was going to let that Goodreads challenge kind of go by the wayside. I'm so engaged with the School of Magical Stitches and Literature that I really want to read those prompts first. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull books off my Goodreads challenge list that fit into the extra credit reading challenges. And then I may not get to everything that was on that 52 books list, but I will get 52 books read this year, if that makes any sense. So anyway. There's where we are in books. Let's move along to cross stitch. Okay, so if I just say school, you all will know that we're talking about the School of Magical Stitches and Literature. If you haven't run into it, it is a Facebook group. It has expanded exponentially. It is running everyone's lives. Rotations are being thrown out the window. Projects are being worked on that you never thought you were going to work on. And wow, I'm feeling super productive with it. So I'm going to just, let's ride that horse until we can't ride it anymore, because I'm getting so much stuff done. I'm not going to go through all of the extra credit prompts and stuff. I'm just going to show you what I worked on, because so many other folks have already talked about it, and to be honest, I can't remember all of them. I just know what I do for homework, and then I check it off on my list. And I do have, like, here, I'll show you in my book, in my notebook, like I have all the reading challenges here, and I have the stitching extra credit challenges here, and I've got a little chart that's showing me what I've worked on for each of the projects, and any notes are on the opposite side over here. So like I have that all written down, but I mean, I think we'll just go with it, because at this point there's so much to show you that we'll just move through. So let's start with the first thing. So this is a finish, and it's actually a fully finished object. And I used this for one of the ultimate stitching challenges. This isn't even extra credit, that had you put 1,000 stitches into a project that was related to the fact that Harry and Neville both have birthdays in July. They're both end of July birthday boys. So I picked the Shepherd's Bush project called Summer, and I have finished it. So here is this little cushion pillow thing. I backed it with navy blue stars to kind of go with that patriotic theme. Now, I did make some changes. The first of which is it called for either 14 count, or 2/1, or 28 count. I actually bumped this down to 32 count. So you can see like some of the buttons don't fit perfectly. The buttons came with the pattern. I did this on a 32 count Weeks Dye Works linen in the colorway Morris Blue. When I got the kit, it actually called for 3 stars and 3 buttons up here along the top, but I actually didn't have one of the 3 buttons. So I was gonna have to do a replacement anyway. And then one of the other buttons didn't fit in here at all, because I'm using a smaller count fabric. So I just decided that I was going to put in 3 of these backstitched stars, and then intersperse the 2 buttons that did fit pretty well into the space up there. And then I added the bee and the little heart and the bird, which do fine. All of the thread is color and cotton from various club packages from Angela, which I think turned out great. I love how it looks. I particularly love the little bees that are done just with a few stitches and then back stitching. So I really don't have very many things that go out on my little display table for the spring and summer. Like, I'm really good for fall. I've got a ton of stuff for fall. I have almost nothing for summer, although I do now. I think I have 2 pieces for summer. And then my plan over the years is to try to get some of the other seasonally themed ones done, so that I've got some, a nice display out with a mix of different things for each of the seasons, because I love that. I love walking by and looking at them, and I love being able to change them out. So yeah, so this one will go in, be in my little storage box until the summer actually hits, but it is done. And I think it came out super cute. And again, the back. So there, and I've finished an extra credit project. So there is that. The other finish that I have, although it's not fully finished, is the February ornament. Hang on one second. I think that's easier to see. The February ornament from the Annie B's Ornament Club. This is the top hat ornament. And again, I'm getting the pattern, the buttons, and the 25 count natural linen to work these on, and then I'm using Color and Cotton and Gentle Arts floss for the stitching. And I mean, not a ton to say, except super cute. I'm gonna finish these. I'm gonna probably wait till I get at least 3 or 4 completed and then start thinking about how I want to finish them. I'm not sure I'll finish them all exactly the same, but I think I'd like to have the backing match for them. However I decide to finish them. I'm toying with either just doing a whole bunch of little pillows, because there's 12 ornaments plus 2 bonus ornaments. So I could do something where I have them out and I pull one as a focus piece for like the 12 days of Christmas. Or I was thinking, I mean, it seems silly to maybe do them on like a magnetic backing board and rotate through the 12 days of Christmas, because I think I would like to have all of them out to enjoy all of them for the Christmas season, because they are pretty seasonal. So yeah, I don't know if you all have any thoughts about a way to put them together, you know, display them together for the holidays. You can let me know. We've got lots of time, 10 months. But anyway, that's a finish, just not a fully finished piece, but done as well. So next I will talk about the stuff that I have been working on, although this is in no particular order. Let's start with pins and needles. This is one of those projects that I'm like, oh, if I put 200 stitches into it, I'm going to be so close to finishing it. And I've said that now like 5 times. But anyway, here's where this little guy is. It is closer. I have a little bit of stitching left to do down here in the bottom. There's like one strand of gold that goes down there. I need to finish the windows. You can see I started those. The door is done and those 2 windows are done. Trees are completely done. And then I need to bring the borders down, you know, finish these side borders. So I'm making progress on that, and I did put in 200 stitches in this last night for some homework, or extra credit, extra credit. That was extra credit for the Dementor category, for something that sucks the life out of you, because really, I feel like this piece should have been done like a month ago. But it will be done in March. I will get it finished one way or the other. I mean, I'm just so close, it's silly not to just press on. But I'm going to wait and see what our homework is. And that'll help drive some of it. Because a lot of times we have like 100 or 200 or 300 stitches to put in it. And I can do that pretty easily without feeling like I'm super overwhelmed. It looks like I also need to finish one strand of tree in there. That one is missing. One little bit up here in the top to match this one. Yeah, so doing this on a 28 count even weave. I'm doing it 1/1. I'm using Color and Cotton floss. I hand dyed the fabric myself. Pattern is by Annie Bees, same person who did the Ornament Club. So that is where I am on that little guy. So again, making progress on it, just like I'm using the homework to slowly chip away at that little by little, so that I'm not feeling, it's tedious to work on the 28 count 1/1. It is. So I work on it, and it's much less daunting if I'm like, instead of thinking, oh, I have to have this done, you know, this month, or I want to have this done this month. It's a lot easier to just say, you know what, I'm going to put 200 stitches in it today, and then stick 100 stitches in it at some other point and work away at it that way. Okay, next up, I pulled out and worked on the Villages of Hawk Run Hollow, the Village of Hawk Run Hollow, which has not seen the light of day in a while. So this was pretty fun to work on, and you will see a lot of this month because I'm using it for several of the March and April Extra Credit Challenge pieces. So let me show you where I am. The thing that's, again, kind of surprising is, let me show you the whole thing first. I'm doing this on a 22 count hard hanger. Picture this plus fabric in, I believe it's Legacy. I'm doing it 1/1, and I am doing some customization of the blocks. So for instance, I changed the church to the Advent church. Like I changed up the windows to look more like the Advent church near my gram. And they live on Moose Run Road in Moose Run Hollow. It is actually called Moose Run Hollow where they are. So that's a really easy change. But so I changed that to the City Hall, and I changed the established date to the date. I did a little research online, the date that it isn't really a town that they live in, but it's like the closest town was incorporated in 1793. So I have been working on this, which is the boarding house. And in the original, it's Opal's boarding house. And so I changed it to Jane because that was my Gram's name, or the name she went by. Long and involved story there, but the name that she went by, her given name was Sarah, but she went by Jane. So I worked on this sign. That was all I did. And there's a lot of stitches in this sign because I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally finish that with the homework. I did not totally finish that with the homework. So what I have left to do in this block is to bring this part of the black iron sign holder down and finish the sign. There's 2 little dogs here that I need to finish, and then I need to backstitch the there's little ties on the windows. You can't really even see it. I won't bother to show you on the picture because it doesn't show it there. But anyway, so one of my Stitch 9, oh, I should mention, this is one of my Stitch 9 projects. So I've done 2 of the 9. My other Stitch 9 goal is to finish this block and then block 5, which is the trees and the forest block there, that one right there. And so I think what I'm gonna do, my current plan is for the extra credit. So we need to go back if there was a challenge that's from before that we didn't complete for whatever reason, and do that with 500. Basically, it says 500 stitches from prior challenge. So one of the challenges I missed because I hadn't signed up for the school in January till the end of the month is the School Spirit Challenge, where you need to do stitches. It's actually 618 stitches total, but 300 stitches in green and 300 stitches in silver. So pretty sure I will have this silvery color to finish. I'll be able to put in at least 200 stitches there. And then this block has a ton of green, like all of the trees are green. So I'll pick a color and do that. So that will be my School Spirit Challenge. I'm also going to use this to do 500 stitches of frames because obviously each one of the blocks has frames in it. I'm going to use it for the Marauders Map Challenge, 500 stitches of something that is street or town related, which obviously this is because it's a village. So I think so it's 1,000 stitches for the frame, or 500 stitches for the frames, 500 stitches for the map or street prompt, and then 500 stitches in green and silver. I think I'm gonna get pretty close to getting this finished, this block, and I'll make good progress on that block. And then we'll see where else it can come out for as the year goes on. But I had not worked on this, I think, in a year, and now it's actually got some stitches in it, and I'm moving forward again on it, which makes me super happy. So, okay, so that. Next, I also worked quite a bit on my Which Way, which is, this project. It is a Heaven and Earth design chart, artwork by Molly Harrison. And I have a page finish. Hang on, needle minders. Yeah, so I used this for a ton of different homework prompts as well as extra credit prompts, and got the second page finished. So there is a third page over here, and then there's one column basically left to do. And then the top row of this will be done. Sorry, trying to get her a little bit closer in so you can see. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So this actually meets my goal with this one for this year. I wanted to get a page finish on her, which I have done. And I'm not sure if she'll come back out or not. We'll see how the rest of the year goes. She might be appropriate for other homework, or I can't remember if I have her slotted for the extra credit challenge or not. The ultimate extra credit challenge. So she may come back out. My point being, I'm not going to focus on her right now. She's at a good stopping point, and I'll just be ready to tackle that when I get there. Okay, next up is the Desert Mandala by Chatelaine. So so our homework for this weekend was to pull out a project. We had to do a list of at least 20 whips, or 20 whips. If you had less, that was fine, but 20 whips was the magic number they were looking for. And then they said, pick the project listed as project number 13 and put in 300 stitches on that. So my project number 13 was my Desert Mandala. This is my Chatelaine. Let me get some of this organized here so you can see what it looks like. I'm sure y'all know what it looks like, but so I'll show you first what I did on this, and that was these. This is 300 stitches right here in this top border. There she is, totally out there where I am. All of it. It's going to be big. Now, the good news is I had been, so y'all remember the horrible events with the burned fabric that I have mended and restitched and stitched Cocopelli over here. I started having a little anxiety when I got to the middle about this not fitting. So you can see it does fit. This is as far over as this is. So this is my, whatever edge this is, my right edge. But it's a little tighter over here than I would like. However, I now know that it will fit for sure, and it is okay, and it's not totally bumped up against the selvage there. And how I know this is I did 500 stitches in 310 for the Serious Black challenge. And so I worked on that actually yesterday and finished that up. So the Cocopelli is stitched 1 over 1, and the rest of it is stitched 2 over 2. But that is where this is. So, not sure when this will come back out next. I do have it slated for a couple of extra credit projects, and I'm going to be working on this with Leah Noel, the Aviatrix stitcher, but not until July. We're going to do a little stitch along when she gets hers going, and I'll pull it out then. It'll probably be the last week in July, I think is what we've decided on. But if I have other challenges that it fits in, I will probably try to tackle some of it. Because now it actually feels like, I know this seems ridiculous that I have like the center finished and this upper vignette, and I'm like starting on all the beading. You can see that up there with the sparklies. But now it kind of feels like I'm making progress on it because I've hit this side corner. I know that's ridiculous, but anyway, that's how I feel. So there it is. Tons and tons and tons of work left to do on this, but yeah, love it as much as I did when I put it away and hadn't worked on it. I don't think I've worked on it for maybe 6 months, 4 months. Anyway, so I did decide that I'm gonna do beading the smaller beads as I go, and I'm gonna save, like right there's a square crystal. I'm gonna save that. I think there's some other ones. Oh, here, inside those boxes. I'm gonna wait and put the square, like the chunkier crystals in, the treasures, after I am done everything else, so they don't get crunched on the scroll frame. So that's where I am. Yep, gonna be huge, gonna be massive, but this is being stitched on 28 count, even weave. Calypso is the colorway from Picture This Plus, which I love. I love how everything looks on it. Yeah, glad I made this choice. Just this vignette alone with the sky, with the puffy clouds. This is us here. This is how our sky looks. So that is where I am on that project. Then the last thing I will show you is the progress that I'm making on a stitching shelf, because I did put more stitches into this. So here's page 1, page 2, and I'm working on page 3 of the large format size pages. So I've moved on to some other books you can see here, and I just love this. I'm really glad that I made the decision that I'm going to focus on this. So my goal for this year is to get 6 pages finished. So right here, I know you can barely see because there's 8 gazillion hanging threads, but I don't know if that helps at all. There's just a lot of threads here, you guys. So here's the edge of the 3rd page, and getting to here will be half of the 1st page. So my thought was to do 2,600 stitches a month. These large format pages are 5,200 stitches and not, I think it's 8,000. Is it 8,000? I don't know. I don't know what the larger size or the regular size is on the Heaven and Earth design, but these are 5,200. So my thought was, you know, do 2,600 each month, and then I would have a page finish every other month, which would get me 6 pages finished this year. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster than that if I can, and I do have this slotted in for, let's see, 2 of the 500 stitch March, April challenges, and then another 200 stitch one. So, I mean, that right there is 1,200 stitches. I'll easily get that done and start pushing into the bottom of the page. So those are March, April challenges. If I can use this for homework, I will. It just, you know, since we don't know what the homework is except week to week, I won't know till we get there. I did put in the, was it 200 or 300 stitches, I think, for the end of year 2's homework, where you could work on anything that you wanted. It was sort of a freebie in recognition of Dobby being freed. You could work on whatever you wanted. So I did put the stitches into this. And that's my goal, is to basically figure out wherever I can slot that in, whether it's 100 stitches or 500 stitches or 1,000 stitches. I have it, I think, for 2 and maybe 3 of the Ultimate Challenge projects that are 1,000 stitches each. I have this lined up. Any place I can slot it in, I'm gonna do it and just try to get some traction on it. So other than that, I'm not really gonna talk about plans, because until we see what the homework is for Monday, I won't really know. Yeah, that's going to drive what it is I decide to work on this week and what I can take as a travel project. If possible, I'm going to try to get my homework done like Monday and Tuesday, and then I could take an extra credit project with me on travel that I know I can work on without having to have too much with me in the way of supplies. So I think that's about it. Sneaking in hopefully under 50 minutes here. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me. I appreciate all your likes, your comments, your interactions. You can find me on the web as either Woolly Wonka Fibers if you're interested in knitting and yarn, or as Little Bird Stitcher if you're interested in books and my stitching. So I will be back in a couple of weeks when it will be spring, 2 weeks from now. So until then, y'all take care. Have a great beginning to March, and happy crafting. Take care.